This is not so much a traditional memory report as it is a sort of minor notification. This is being submitted to the High Committee, but I'm also submitting this independently to my contact in Universe Sector 0057 Alpha for transmission to the Internet in that world line. I came across something recently while I was in Safe Haven checking up information from a wide-ranging number of sources. This was primarily for the purposes of information retrieval and collation to see which universes would be most likely ones that I would want to scout next for the High Committee. While I was doing so, I fell prey to the temptation that is Googling oneself. For those of you who are not familiar with the concept in the High Committee, in a wide number of universe lines that are in the 2014 Common Era, 2013 to 2015 Common Era measurement by human calendar, Google, as it is known, a company who runs a information collation service, is generally well known on a wide number of these world lines, and there is a tradition that my contact in 0057 Alpha told me about called Googling oneself. This is where you type your name in and see what comes up. And I took a look in his world line, and I took a look in his world line and a couple of others. Apparently, apparently the release of my memory reports to the from you guys at the High Committee to my contact, or actually to a number of my contacts, is actually apparently meaning that we're getting a much wider exposure amongst some of the universe lines. But a little interesting wrinkle came up. Let me show you what I can. Let me show you my most recent memory of this sort to illustrate exactly what I'm talking about. So as I flip over, this is a little snapshot of what was in my memory at the time. When I typed my name in, Pseudonymus, the first thing is that apparently our spelling and the English spelling are not quite the same, but that's irrelevant. Anyway, as you will notice, Pseudonymus-Observer report is the Pseudonymus-Observer report is the name of the collation by which my memory reports are being released to the public by my contact in Universe Sector 0057 Alpha. And he's even gone to the trouble of taking direct transcription from me to make a Facebook page. I'm not quite sure what Facebook is. I'll have to look into that in a little bit. But anyway, he's posted a lot of my stuff, and that's all well and good. And it's the 4th and 5th entries on this Google search. So we're getting some good degree of coverage. However, entry number 2 was of particular interest. From a website called healthunlocked.com, I'm assuming this is a medical site, it asks, how do you treat pseudonymus? So let's take a look at this and see what they actually show. A guy by the name of Fletcher Fox, or I'm assuming it's a guy, it could be a woman, could be even a third gender for all we know. Fletcher Fox asks, how do you treat pseudonymus? Scrolling down the page, the same person responds with, the fact that there is no answers to how do you treat pseudonymus, does that mean it can't be treated? Let's go down. It's quite easy to treat and even to cure. You just have to stop writing under a false name. But the fact that somebody asked that pseudonymus is untreatable, I didn't know this, but apparently I am viewed as a disease. I'm apparently viewed as a disease in Universe Sector 0057 Alpha. Interesting. Now, we keep going down here, and there's a nice one, LANU outfox the fox, chortle. This question can be answered by Googling it. Easy. I just Googled it, and apparently there is no answer. Looks like the weekend's antics have started, have opened the door for every Tom, Dick, and Pratty. Oh, and here's where it gets interesting. As we continue, there's some nonsensical posts and a lot of stuff regarding medical, but it turns out that Fletcher Fox made the mistake of mistaking an actual lung infection, because this is apparently from the British Lung Foundation. And apparently it was mistaking an actual bacteria by the name of Pseudomonas, which is it's a bacterium which lives in soil and detritus, but it includes a number of pathogens of plants or animals. It's a gram-negative bacteria, but apparently they mistook Pseudomonas for Pseudonymus. this actually reveals two very interesting things about the Universe Sector 0057 Alpha. Number one is that apparently, despite all the brilliant potential for this world line, which, as the High Committee pointed out, it is potentially one of the greatest one of the timelines of greatest potential for being able to access higher dimensional spacetime within the next few Terran decades, I believe it is. Not even a fraction of a Zarnak. But even in addition to that, there is a well, the first one is the fact that the first one is the issue that apparently people do not know how to. Apparently, people are not checking up the definitions of words or what have you, for the most part, before asking questions. So there is a little bit of a critical thinking exercise / science education issue that will have to be somewhat addressed. But more importantly, albeit it was more fun to find out that I might be a disease, obviously this was just a miscommunication, but it does raise a very good point, which I think I should submit to the High Committee and to anyone else who might be traveling in the paradimensional space anytime soon. If you are traveling in a method that is a body-to-body traveling across universes and not traveling as a gravitational or entanglement signal, i.e., if you're not transmitting your consciousness via one of the information transfer techniques, there is a possibility. We already deal with the information thing via reparameterization before retransferring a consciousness to a new body, to a new host body. That being said, if a host body is traveling from universe to universe, there is a very strong likelihood about the possibility of conveying a contagion from one universe clean through to another. And if we are dealing with radically different life forms, and worse yet, if we end up entering a universe where the physical laws end up making a pathogen very epidemic and very contagious and highly susceptible to new life forms in that universe, either due to lack of immunity via exposure or due to some quirk in the physical laws, this could potentially be a very major issue that we have overlooked. So to that end, I am making a recommendation to the High Committee that we start adding to the hyperspheres every time a new wormhole is generated, either by myself or by a new operative or group of operatives traveling between universes. That we start aiming to that every time a wormhole is generated, we create a zero tau field, a temporary time suspension field inside the hypersphere before we transfer them through the wormhole to the next universe they're going to, specifically for the purpose of reviewing. Any pathogens in that universe, that might be attached to the operative, who is traveling, who's taking a host body from host system from one universe to another, and verify that they're, and try to make models as to which pathogens that would be naturally as part of their system might be contagious to the new universe line. I specifically request this. I specifically recommend this under high procedure, that we evaluate all pathogens there, and from the knowledge of the physical laws that we have of said universe, we attempt to calculate which ones might be the most highly prolific, and attempt to come up with methods to reduce their proclivity and their contagion level to very minimal levels upon transferring to a new universe line. Luckily, this doesn't seem to have been affected so far to any of the universe lines I've traveled to. Nonetheless, I do feel this technology is going to be, as you guys in the High Committee have pointed out, I'm supposed to be an experiment as the first scout to actually transfer a host body directly rather than just a consciousness stream. If we are to continue this on an ongoing process, then we are going to want to have a method by which, if the local physical laws cannot prevent a pathogen from going through, then we start taking out pathogens in the process that might be attached to me or to other operatives, just to make sure that we are not inadvertently destroying civilizations or universes that we are trying to explore. Again, just a heads up, we might want to address this issue now. Anyway, this concludes my report to the High Committee. Of course, I hope everyone both in Universe Sector 001, in Universe Sector 0057 Alpha, and any other universe that might happen to be viewing this report, I hope that they might both might find some useful information out of this, as well as also get a bit of a laugh over the miscommunication over the particular disease in question. But yes. thank you very much to my contact in 0057 Alpha for showing me this little technique and for having brought this little issue to my attention inadvertently in a rather funny way. I should mention as well that assuming this report is released in a timely manner to the public, that there are a few reports. There are some other reports, including some from Universe Sector 02179, which are still in the ongoing process right now. They've already passed and they will be released. Please understand that they are actually happening before this report. It's just the only reason they haven't come out yet is because of the fact that the High Committee is reviewing a large chunk of information on these, and they're also reviewing some of my other reports which may not get released, period. We're actually in the process right now of let me put it this way. Owing to certain recent developments, I have been... There's some review right now as to my behavior, so to speak. There's some trials going on, and whether or not I broke. There is some concern that I may have broken a couple of the articles of the interdimensional Sentient Rights Proclamation because of the fact that I may have misinterpreted the level of sentience over a particular species. Namely, in Universe Sector 02179, there is a group out there which colloquially are known as goblins. And one of the times I recently went to the Universal Line, I was taking part in I've recently been actually changed form from an Eidolon. They've managed to get me into a sort of bipedal type system, and some other unique mutual compatibility of physical laws there. Anyway, the real concern was the fact that I interacted with the goblins recently in an attempt to try to point out a flaw in their reasoning, courtesy of some information I had locally. I found that these particular goblins are highly averse to the concept of writing in general. They just do not like it. It's almost like they have an almost sort of religious fear of it. So in order to attempt to cause the goblins to dissuade, I deliberately used a spell, that's what they call it, more like a technique for imprinting energy and basically converting gravitational to light to be able to actually convey your name in a way that will actually be visible just simply by touching it. Basically, it's by using direct will to create a spontaneous chemical reaction which allows local chemicals to fluoresce and to fluoresce from basically fluorescent light comes off and you can install your name. Now I did this technique and did this directly on the face of a shaman amongst these goblins. Again, because of their aversion, I thought that if my name was on their leader, they would either A, follow through by attempting to strike said leader, or B, realize that this was not the appropriate technique. The goblins did something very unpredictable. They went, and not only did they attack me and knock me out, I later found out when I came to that they had done some very unspeakable things to the... I had written down a large chunk of knowledge in my journals and books there because of the fact that my entangled focus computer, which is entangled to the hypersphere network, is a little bit diminished in that particular world line. So when I woke up, I discovered that they had done some very unspeakable things to my... They had done some very unspeakable things to my work, to my written work, and they had almost tried to set one of them on fire when I woke up. Luckily, I was able to get that stamped out and deal with some other issues in the process. However, I have a very low opinion of goblins right now, and especially considering that apparently, despite their proclivity for language, they appear to have a very, very bare understanding of mathematics, and even with their concept of language, their level of cooperation in their society, as per article, their level of cooperation with other sentient beings, even the members of their own species, is very, very minimal at best. I have submitted this report to the High Committee, and they are reviewing right now whether or not the goblins actually meet the criteria of sentience. If they have, the fact that I have treated them very badly, I mean, I have protected them. To be fair, I have protected them. But the fact that I deliberately kicked them, fed them glue in my most recent endeavor to that universe line, the fact that I deliberately gave them glue to stick together in the hopes of trying to mean they were less of a less of a problem overall. You know, basically sticking themselves together. You know, effectively giving them a toy that was dangerous. See, the thing is that there may have been some violation of sentient rights issues there, and it's a gray area right now. So the High Committee is doing an independent review of this particular work and is determining whether or not I may have. Yeah, basically, if I violated the Sentient Rights Proclamation, I'm going to be up for some. They're going to be having to send a new operative out, and I'm going to be having to take some time away to undergo an extended research assignment. Fun times ahead. But yeah, long story short, with that, they're still undergoing the review, and it's, like I said, it's a gray area right now. And as Article 590 clearly states, all articles are subject to empirical revision in light of the current circumstances. So yeah, on the bright side, though, as you may or may not be aware, I have been promoted to Level 2. I was a high stage Level 1 operative. Stage, like I said, I was Stage 9 bordering Stage 10 when I first was sent off to the multiverse. Stage 10 when Stage 9 when they finally reawoke my memories. But the good news is, though, is that apparently my review of specifically of this protocol, you know, when I actually talked to the High Committee before compiling this memory report, they said that the fact that I had actually brought up the issue of contagion for hosts. That new unique level, they gave me enough access to information, and it turned out that apparently my comprehension level of information in the central database turned out that because of this, I had apparently reached Level 2 complexity of understanding. So as a result, they've reparameterized my system a little bit and expanded my hypersphere accordingly, you know, or expanded my my personal file with regard to the hyperspheres to, you know, my core hypersphere, so to speak, the one that's processing me at any given time to handle better understanding. Anyway, sorry for all these updates. I guess the key point is I'm just trying to give everyone who might be watching this a ongoing system. So yeah, possible promotion done and possible punishment coming up. And extended research assignments are never. I'm not saying they're never fun, just because, but just having heard stories from other people about what happens when they come back out. They understand the reasons why they went in, and they understand how they could handle it better now. But again, it's just yeah. Like I said, if I do manage to upload a memory report if I do go into extended research assignment and have to go through with that, well, not to worry, there will be a full memory report of what happened, and chances are I'll even ask the High Committee if they can release it. So again, people who are keeping an eye on on our species and who are developing their way to sentient to independent interdimensional travel and communication in their own right, well, they will at least see the techniques that we've been using to handle issues regarding violation of sentient rights of other groups, and if they work, they'll adopt something similar, and if not, they'll come up with their own techniques. Anyway, I've been rambling far too long now, and I have a assignment on another world line that I have to get to. So with that, I will sign off, and I trust that my contact, again, Universe Sector 0057 Alpha, will upload this as soon as it gets released from the High Committee, and yeah, and if I'm placed into an extended research assignment, well, then you guys will get the report as soon as it's done, and in the meantime, I'm trusting the High Committee has another couple of operatives backed up to take over if other parts of the experiment if it turns out that I'm not able to. Anyway, catch you guys later.